on this Sunday night. The cleanup and rescue mission in BC after a deadly storm wreaks havoc. From landslides to fallen trees.
It was a cold, dark night. It was pretty remarkable. It was one of the loudest things I've ever heard.
The response and the devastation on the south coast. Key changes to mortgage rules take effect. Will they ease the housing crunch or pile on pressure for homebuyers? Plus, why the Liberals' voter-friendly policies aren't improving struggling poll numbers. What's being done to solve the mystery behind thousands of drone sightings in New York and New Jersey? And a holiday tradition with a heartwarming twist.
Whatever we make is more than they had before we started.
How a Winnipeg man's Christmas display is lighting up the lives of children in need.
Global National, reporting tonight, Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with the extreme weather that hammered British Columbia's south coast this weekend. One person is dead after a large tree branch crashed onto a home just outside of Vancouver. And along Canada's scenic sea-to-sky highway, a major search and rescue mission is underway. A landslide sent mud, rock and trees crashing down the mountainside, blocking the highway. The debris also collided with a home whose residents are still unaccounted for. Heather Yourex-West has our top story tonight.
The highway connecting Vancouver and Whistler was back open to traffic Sunday as a major search and rescue operation continued nearby. Police say one home was impacted when mud and debris came down on Highway 99 north of Lions Bay Saturday.
There's one in there.
The heavy-duty search and rescue crew from Canada Task Force 1 was on site as evacuated residents awaited word on when they could return home.
It was pretty remarkable. It was one of the loudest things I've ever heard, that's for sure.
You could tell something was wrong.
With the highway closed Saturday night, an emergency reception center was set up at the Fairmont Chateau Whistler for those unexpectedly trapped in the resort town.
It's Christmas and there's great snow in Whistler, and so we're extremely busy.
The storm also brought down trees across North Vancouver and Surrey, where one woman was killed after police say she was struck by a falling branch.
We've had some trees fall into buildings as well too. In one case, a tree uprooted a gas line and broke the gas line, so we had flowing gas.
I saw that and my heart just sunk. I was like, why is this happening? It just tipped over into my house.
BC Hydro says 300,000 customers lost power on the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island, though most of the lights came back on early Sunday.
We had wind gusts of 85 kilometers per hour yesterday. Saturday began Friday night, and Saturday wind strong. And then on the Strait of Georgia, some wind sensors were measuring winds of well over 100 kilometers per hour.
The weekend storm comes after a bomb cyclone blasted the south coast last month, with recorded wind speeds reaching 170 kilometers per hour. A less intense system is forecast for the region Sunday night, with more rain in the days to follow. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
Also in BC tonight, a state funeral was held for former Premier John Horgan, who died last month from thyroid cancer. Family, friends and politicians of all stripes, including the Prime Minister, came to pay their respects to one of the province's most beloved leaders. The 65-year-old served as BC's Premier from 2017 until 2022, when he stepped down due to his health while battling throat cancer. He had been serving as Canada's ambassador to Germany since last year before being diagnosed with cancer for a third and final time. At today's ceremony, his eldest son dedicated a song to him.
I miss you so much, now you're in God's hand. I miss you so much. I miss you so much, now you're in God's hand.
Global BC's Richard Zussman is reporting from the memorial and joins us now. Richard, what legacy has Horgan left behind?
For so many in this province, he was known as Premier Dad, but for many here, he was just John from Langford. Horgan celebrated for his achievements as Premier, but also his demeanor. He was the architect of the $10 a day childcare program in British Columbia that has now been expanded to most provinces in the country. He also worked to stabilize costs for everyday British Columbians, from car insurance to electricity bills. But it's Horgan's demeanor that so many people will remember. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking about the impact Horgan had on people here in this province.
Combining progressive values, pragmatism, wisdom, and compassion, he never shied away from challenges, but above all, he had an extraordinary sense of humor. John, it was an incredible joy and privilege to have worked alongside you, but more than anything, it was an honor to call you my friend.
Premier David Eby replaced Horgan, speaking about filling those big Doc Martens. Horgan, known in this province for wearing those shoes, also for his love of the show Star Trek and his love of the local lacrosse team, the Victoria Shamrocks. The team paying tribute to him here at their home at the Q Centre, a celebration of a life that when Horgan left office, Neetu, he left as the most popular premier this province has ever seen. He was 65 years old.
All right, Richard Zussman in Colwood, BC. Thanks for that, Richard. New polling spells trouble for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberals. It shows support for the federal party has dropped 5 points since September, with the Liberals now deadlocked with Jagmeet Singh's NDP. Exclusive Ipsos polling for Global News shows if an election were held tomorrow, the Conservatives would win decisively. Trudeau's Liberals would only secure 21% of the vote, tied with the NDP, which has gained 5 points.
What we're seeing here is that progressive voters are starting to make a decision to maybe reconsider the NDP. We do know that one of the largest voter blocks in the Canadian population these days continues to be Liberal NDP switchers. So what we're starting to see is not just people who are considering the Conservative Party moving away from the Liberals, but people who are looking for another progressive option now considering the NDP. It's a pretty clear message from Canadians that they want change.
Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland will table the fall economic statement Monday, and she's already signaled the government will move away from self-imposed spending limits with plans to announce new spending initiatives. As David Akin explains, Ottawa's strategy has been shaped largely by external factors, including President-elect Donald Trump's looming tariff threats and other domestic issues.
In Montreal Friday, opposition leader Pierre Poilievre riles up his supporters.
You've been pinching your pennies long enough. It's time for government to start pinching its pennies.
With the Trudeau government all but certain to crash through a self-imposed fiscal guardrail when it delivers the fiscal economic statement on Monday, the Conservative opposition is teeing off.
Once we have taken back control of spending, that will allow us to bring down the deficit.
Last spring, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland promised to abide by 3 fiscal guideposts, including this one.
Maintaining the 2023-24 deficit at or below $40.1 billion.
But the parliamentary budget officer and most private sector economists believe Freeland will miss that target by $4, $6, maybe $10 billion. Why? A combination of domestic and external politics. Externally, Donald Trump's re-election has forced Ottawa to boost budgets on defense and on border security. Domestically, the Liberals, to stay in power, have had to concede to NDP demands to spend billions on new national programs like pharmacare and dental care, as well as the GST holiday that just got underway. And more spending commitments are on the way. On Friday, Freeland announced a suite of tax incentives that will cost the Treasury $26 billion over the next 6 years.
What we're saying today, and I'll have more to say about this in the fall economic statement on Monday, is Canada is going to fight for Canada. Our government is fighting for Canadian jobs. Our government is fighting for capital.
The Poilievre Conservatives will try to convince Canadians that all this spending is irresponsible and is causing inflation. But inflation has fallen so far and so rapidly that last week the Bank of Canada cut interest rates by ½ percentage point. And the Trudeau Liberals have noticed that, and they believe their political salvation lies not in fiscal restraint, but in more targeted spending. David Akin, Global News, Ottawa.
Another federal initiative to improve affordability for Canadians took effect today. Previously announced changes to the country's mortgage and down payment aimed at easing the financial pressure off of home buyers are now in effect. Candace Daniel looks at what impact these new measures could have on Canada's housing crisis.
Touted as the boldest reforms in decades, today, new real estate rules for mortgages and home down payments in Canada take effect. The federal government's key measures include raising the cap on insured mortgages from $1 to $1.5 million.
Previous to this cap, you required $200,000 in order to make a purchase for $1 million. Now, with the changes, your down payment is reduced $125,000 and only $75,000 is required, provided you qualify.
Opening up the market to buyers in Canada's biggest and most expensive cities.
It's only going to help very few regions. So this is Vancouver, Toronto, to some extent Calgary, Ottawa, where home prices are a little bit higher than they are for the national average. You're not going to get somebody in Moncton really that's going to be accessing an uninsured mortgage for $1.5 million because home prices don't reflect that reality.
The other key change, eligibility for 30-year amortizations now expanded to first-time home buyers and new builds, meaning lower monthly payments over a longer period of time. TD Economics forecasts the higher threshold for insured mortgages will make more expensive homes more accessible, raising the national average home price 2 to 4 points by June of 2025.
With interest rates being lower than they have been in the last 6 months, that's definitely going to stoke the market a little bit and then make it unaffordable again for those same first-time home buyers. There will be more competition than there would have been 6-7 months ago because people just like them are going to be back in the market.
And there are more changes in January with the secondary suite programs, signs of the Economic Times as Canada tries to mitigate a housing shortage and affordability crisis. Candace Daniel, Global News, Toronto.
Today marks 1 week since Syria's opposition rebel forces seized control, toppling the Assad regime. As Syrians brace for a new chapter after Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, swept to power, overthrowing President Bashar al-Assad's iron rule, today Syrian students returned to class after authorities ordered schools to be reopened. And as celebrations continue in Damascus, today Christians attended Sunday services, a first test as Islamist rebel leaders seek to reassure minority groups that their way of life is not at risk. Today, Israel approved an $11 million plan to expand settlements in the occupied Golan Heights, citing threats from Syrian rebels and a desire to double its population there. This is new video showing Israel's ongoing military operation inside the Golan Heights. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his government is acting in light of the war and the new front facing Syria. Israel has hit hundreds of targets inside Syria since rebel forces seized control and launched a land incursion that has seen its forces move deeper into a previously demilitarized buffer zone. Mysterious drone sightings. Coming up, thousands of unknown objects over American airspace fuel speculation and a call for action. In the U.S., ABC News has agreed to pay $15 million to President-elect Donald Trump to settle a defamation case. The lawsuit was filed by Trump after ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos falsely claimed in March that Trump had been found liable for rape, when in fact a civil case last year determined Trump was liable for sexual abuse. As part of the settlement, ABC News will also have to pay for Trump's legal fees and publish a statement of regret. There is growing frustration on the American East Coast about those persistent drone sightings. They started appearing in the skies above New Jersey a few weeks ago, and they've since been spotted in neighboring states. No public explanation has been given about the drone's origins, and as Bianca Fascini explains, politicians are frustrated with the lack of answers.
People in New Jersey have had it up to here with drones.
For weeks, we've asked for the truth and action to mitigate any and all threats to people and property. Now, we are demanding it.
Congressman Smith is one of many leaders in the state calling on federal authorities to give them real answers.
No state can become the Wild West of drone activity.
Drone sightings across New Jersey started mid-November.
That's moving really fast.
Exactly.
That's 3 in a row.
Ever since, concerned residents and local leaders have been searching for an explanation without much success.
It appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully. And importantly, there are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace.
And it's not just New Jersey. Neighboring states like New York are also reporting drone sightings. This weekend, Stewart International Airport, about 60 miles north of New York City, shut down the runways for an hour after the Federal Aviation Administration alerted them of a drone in the area. New York Governor Kathy Hochul released a statement shortly after saying this has gone too far. Other leaders in the state are also feeling frustrated.
I requested that flight restrictions be imposed over these sensitive facilities. And, quite frankly, I got a cookie cutter response I'm not happy with.
President-elect Donald Trump has also weighed in. On his website Truth Social, he questioned whether the government knew more about the drones. He also called for them to be shot down if they didn't. There are no reports the unusual drones have caused any physical damage to people or property, but curiosity about their purpose is stronger than ever. Bianca Fascini, Global News, Washington.
Devastating damage and the race to rescue survivors. Ahead, what's being done to help Mayotte, the French territory hit by the worst cyclone in decades. Several hundred people are feared dead after a powerful cyclone pummeled the French territory of Mayotte. Entire communities were flattened when the cyclone hit on Saturday, whipping up 200-kilometer-per-hour winds and torrential rain. About 320,000 people live on the island near Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. At least 11 people have been reported dead. France says it's sending hundreds of rescue workers and tons of aid by air and sea to help with the recovery. To an unfolding environmental disaster in the Kerch Strait. A Russian tanker split apart during a violent storm, triggering a massive oil spill. The tanker was carrying thousands of tons of oil products at the time it broke in two and capsized in the Kerch Strait, located between Russia and Crimea. Russian officials say a second oil tanker is also in distress after being damaged. A significant day for Australia and the remaining 5 men who spent nearly 2 decades in jail in Indonesia. The members of the so-called Bali 9, convicted of drug trafficking, returned home. The 5 men had their repatriation papers signed today and boarded a flight to Darwin in Australia's top end, following a diplomatic deal to bring them home. The men were among 9 people arrested in 2005 while trying to smuggle 8 kilograms of heroin out of Bali. In 2015, the group's 2 ringleaders were executed by a firing squad, causing an international uproar. In 2018, another member died of stomach cancer, and the only woman arrested was released that same year. Holiday lights with heart. Next, how one Winnipeg man's love for Christmas lights is bringing hope to children in need. That is University of Ottawa goalie Zachary Dietz sprinting to make it to Saturday's Ottawa Senators game on time. Dietz was at that same game, but as a fan when he was called up as the Senators' emergency backup goalie. The original backup got hurt during warm-ups. Dietz didn't have a ride to the rink, so he ran home, grabbed his goalie gear, and managed to hustle back in time for puck drop. With the holiday season in full swing and Canadians across the country making a final dash to Christmas, one Winnipegger is going all out to spark hope and joy in his community. He's decorated his house with tens of thousands of lights. As Daisy Welk tells us, the display doubles as a fundraiser for a great cause.
It's no secret Ken Gallant enjoys Christmas lights.
We're at about 80,000 lights and about 40 plus creatures and growing.
Gallant started decorating his St. Norbert Seine River house like this 15 years ago. And after 3, another bulb flickered on. An idea.
I remember somebody asking me if at that time if I was taking donations, and at the time I wasn't. So that's when I picked Make-A-Wish Canada for a charity to use for the lights.
He calls them Ken's Christmas Lights for Hope, and over 12 years has raised nearly $30,000 for Make-A-Wish, an organization helping critically ill kids live out their wishes. And while he says donations have dwindled, he sticks to the cause.
Whatever we make is more than they had before we started, so yeah, we do what we can.
It can be long, cold hours setting the lights up, about 200 this year. But Gallant is motivated by his love for his own kids.
I've got 2 healthy children, but at the same time, you never know, anything can happen.
Also wanting to teach them the spirit that fills this season.
You know, if I can, first of all, show my kids that giving back's important, and if we can, you know, raise some money to help a child from a sick child go to Disney World or anywhere else they may go, then it's definitely all worth it.
The lights shine into the night like Rudolph's nose every evening of the week and will likely be up to January. But Gallant reminds donations are acceptable at any time through makeawish.ca. He encourages everyone to give back, even if it's not a donation.
Just be kind, be generous, and you know, give back if you can.
Daisy Welk, Global News.
A display as beautiful as the message behind it. That is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is this beautifully bright holiday present in Langley, British Columbia. We love seeing your festive Canada photos. Please keep emailing them to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.